Well, a very, very happy Wednesday morning to everyone, and welcome to the John Quintero Show on YouTube. We're here on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:30 for your listening pleasure. Try to get you caught up in everything going on in the world of sports. And this week, we're basically focusing on the winter meetings. We got today, we got tomorrow. We'll have a wrap-up show on Friday of what went on during the winter meetings, but a lot to cover today. And I want to get the paperwork out of the way first. Our channel is growing, and I want to thank everyone for that. And we want to continue to grow and bring you the best sports coverage we possibly can. So if you would, please subscribe, please like the page, write your comments in on our YouTube page, and I know we're live on Facebook. We put clips up on Twitter from time to time. So if you would, please like the page, subscribe, and always enjoy your comments. When I take a look at those comments, a lot of times that leads to some of the things that I talk about during the program. So again, you can follow me on Facebook at John Quintero and on X at Coach Quintero 44. We got a lot to get to today, and I want to get to the Padres today. We're going to talk about the Dodgers a little bit. We're going to talk about just overall what's gone on at the winter meetings. But we need to talk about the Padres because I am concerned about our Padres right now. I visited last Friday at our holiday happy hour. I got an opportunity to visit with AJ Preller. AJ was in a great mood. He loves to come to our holiday party, and it's great baseball talk. And, I think AJ, for the first time in a long time, he's at the winter meetings a little bit, in my opinion, probably handcuffed because he doesn't have the money that he's had in the last 2 or 3 years. And now, if anything, I don't even think they can stand pat and status quo. I think they're going to have to maybe go a little bit backwards. We'll have to wait and see. The Padres haven't really come out and said exactly what their budget's going to be. But I want to talk about their needs. I want to talk about where I think they're at financially right now, some of the numbers early on. And I want you may want to get out a piece of paper and a pen or pencil and write this down. We know they need a left fielder. And Jurickson Profar, I don't know if the Padres really can afford to pay Jurickson 12 to 16 million on, say, maybe a 3-year contract, maybe a 2-year deal and an option for a third, a mutual option. I don't know if they can do that right now. I think right now they have Terso Ornelas out there projected to be their starting left fielder. I don't know if that's going to end up happening or not. Now, as far as Profar, he would like to come back. The Padres would like to bring him back, but I just don't know if financially it's going to line up. And now I'm starting to hear, on the MLB network, they're talking about maybe Profar would be a great fit for the New York Yankees. Maybe. At some point in time, I would think the Yankees are going to try to get someone to play center field and move Aaron Judge to right field. 6'7", 280 pounds. That's a lot of ground to cover, especially as he gets into his 30s. Now, there's a report this morning that Houston is thinking about, maybe moving Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker, by the way, and I'm not probably the biggest Kyle Tucker fan in the world, but Kyle Tucker is projected right now to be next year's big free agent. He would be Juan Soto of the 2025 offseason. I can't imagine him getting anywhere near that type of contract. He doesn't have the resume of a Soto, but nonetheless, Yankees are looking to upgrade, and we're going to get into the Max Fried signing yesterday. It was a great sign by the Yankees. But I want to talk about our Padres because we need a left fielder and we need a dynamic player out there in left field, especially if Luis Arraez will continue to be a Padre and play first base. I mean, right now, I look at the infield. It's going to be Arraez at first. Cronenworth will slide over once again and stay at second base. Xander Bogaerts will be the shortstop, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more later in the program. Manny at third. Left field, question mark. Center field, got a stud. Jackson Merrill. Right field, when healthy, we got one of the best players in baseball in Fernando Tatis, and we don't know who our catcher is going to be. Right now, it's projected to be Luis Camposano. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't feel real good about that because he didn't have a good year, ended up in AAA, and not swinging the bat all that well in the Winter League down in the Dominican Republic. But left field, we got to figure out. And I don't expect Profar to come back and hit 280 again. He's a 245 career hitter in 11 years in the bigs. He had a career year. And somebody will pay for that financially, but I don't think it should be the Padres. Okay, so that's an area where the Padres have flat out got to figure that out. And that may be via a trade. I really think the Padres are going to have to make moves, and some guys are going to have to go, and some guys are going to have to come in. I don't see us really being a player at all this year in free agency unless there's a blockbuster deal and it frees up a bunch of money. I just don't see that happening. And I think A.J. Preller, as great as he did last year, and I told A.J., it was kind of funny when we first saw one another. We shook hands. I go, hey, give me a hug. I go, man, I haven't seen you forever. And I said, you know what? You should have been the executive of the year. He goes, hey, I appreciate that. I go, no. I go, every move you made, and it doesn't always work that way. Very seldom does it work that way. I go, every move you made last year paid off. There wasn't one move he made last year that was like, oh my God, what the hell's Preller doing? He did a hell of a job, and he deserved to be recognized for that. But now he's got a whole different dichotomy he's got to deal with. And I don't know what the edict is from Eric Katsenda. And we'll get back to the players here in a minute. But I want to share what I know right now about the finance because we all need to know where they're at. And the final total for 2024, the best I can come up with is they spent $169 million on their payroll, significantly down from the year before where they were the third highest payroll team in baseball. Okay. Currently projected. And when I mean currently projected, this is with guys eligible for arbitration and guys going to get a bump. Michael King going to get a bump. Dylan Cease going to get a big bump. Luis Arraez going to get a bump. Then you got other guys. I mean, even a guy like Adrian Morejon is going to get a bump. And right now, it currently projects to be at about $210 million. And the competitive balance tax threshold is 241. But with the way they move things around on the AAV and all that, the Padres projected CBT, collective balance tax, the number currently is at 244. So they've got to get under the 241. But they've got a lot of work to do on this because some of these guys are going to get a significant amount of money. I mean, Fernando is going to get a big bump this year, a big bump. But all the guys that are arbitration eligible are going to get a nice bump. I mean, Dylan Cease had a hell of a year. Michael King had a fantastic year. Those two guys were two of the best pitchers, not just in the National League. They were two of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And then you got Luis Arraez going into the final year of his contract like Cease and King. And the Padres are going to have to make some decisions. Who are they going to be able to sign? Who are they going to be able to keep? I'd like to see Arraez stay here, but man, he's probably going to get this year in arbitration somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 to 15 million. And then if you were to sign him to a contract, who knows, he may be getting 20 million a year and you sign him to a long-term contract. You're paying a lot of money for a guy that probably not going to hit 10 home runs playing a power position at first base. You're not going to play him at the DH. You need a big bopper at the DH spot. And then, there's a lot of talk about Dylan Cease maybe going somewhere else. I will be honest with you. If I had to trade one of the two guys, I would trade Cease for a couple of reasons. I think Michael King, first of all, is much more consistent from start to start than Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, on the other hand, I think when teams look at him, they look at the upside. They would only be getting him for a year. Padres would probably be trading him to a contender. They're not going to trade him to somebody that's not going to compete. They're going to trade him to a contender, and you might be able to get something pretty good in return. It's not going to cost you a whole lot for this year's roster. And I think Cease is probably looked at as having better stuff than Michael King. But the thing with Michael King's more consistent than Dylan Cease. And that's what I want. I want consistency in the Padres rotation. Because I don't think the Padres, unless they want to roll the dice and just go for it this year, and then next year be in the quagmire going, what the hell are we going to do for pitching? We'll get Musgrove back. Maybe you'll get Roki Sasaki. We'll get into him here in a minute. But that's where the Padres are financially right now. 169 last year they spent on their roster, currently projected at 210. Competitive balance threshold is at 241. You don't want to get taxed on that to where you got to pay money. Padres don't want to do that. And the Padres projected CBT right now is currently at 244. So they got some work to do on that area. Okay, so we mentioned that they need a left fielder. They need one, if not two catchers. I mean, maybe you can go with Camposano and somebody else you bring in via trade. The catchers are going off the board. Did you see Gary Sanchez the other day signed? He got $8.5 million. He had a bad year last year. He didn't have as good a year last year with the Brewers that he had with the Padres when he hit 19 home runs. Last year he played for 7. I thought he had a bad year and he got 8.5. So I mean, you can't walk into free agency going after guys like Gary Sanchez paying that kind of money. So Padres are going to probably have to make a trade. Okay, and there may be some guys out there that are available. We'll have to wait and see. Long ways before pitchers and catchers report in the middle of February. And also, there we have that. Okay, let's get to Roki Sasaki. Joel Wolf, his agent, who, by the way, a lot of people aren't aware of this. He's also Yu Darvish's agent. And we know that Darvish and Sasaki have a friendship. To what degree, we really don't know. It's been made out that they're like best buddies, but who knows, really? I mean, all this stuff you hear, a lot of it's blowing smoke to try to angle for this team or angle for that team. Darvish is 39 years of age. How many more years is he going to pitch? Okay, and Yu Darvish is the ultimate pro. Be a great guy to learn from. No question about it. Now, here's the timeline for Sasaki. He was posted at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, official, in the afternoon. Okay, there's a 45-day window for him. But he could sign probably as early as January 15th and as late as January 23rd. Now, this is what Joel Wolf had to say yesterday. And he kind of laid out the timeline. Sasaki was en route to the United States yesterday. And he's going to meet with Joel Wolf. And then Wolf and Sasaki, apparently next week, are going to meet maybe like a neutral site. And they're going to have teams come in and bring their presentations. How many teams he's going to meet with, I don't know. But then, after they meet, Sasaki's going to go back to Japan for the holidays. And then he will come back, and then they will have second meetings with teams that they're interested in. Let me point this out to you. The international bonus pool money will be available on January 15th. Okay, so Sasaki's not going to sign before January 15th because it'd be under the 2024 bonus pool. And a lot of teams are pretty much out of money. Okay, the bonus pool high. Every team has a little bit different bonus pool. Now, you can make trades with other organizations and get it up to a certain level. The highest bonus pool money out there, and I don't know which team it is, but it's $7,550,000. Okay, so basically $7.5 million that they could pay to sign a Sasaki. The Padres bonus pool for the 2025 international signing period will be 6.26. The Dodgers will be, from what I found out last night, should be about 5.15 million. So the Padres, and as far as money, it's an advantage at 6.26. But I got news for you. That has nothing to do with this signing. Absolutely nothing to do with this signing. Roki Sasaki has to make a decision here. He can go with the world champion. He can go with the proven commodity. He can go with what is considered one of the best franchises in the history of baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And we know that that's kind of where this was headed a couple of weeks ago. But then our San Diego Padres came into the mix, and they've been working their tail off. They've been working their tail off for a number of years on this guy. So have the Dodgers. I don't want people to think the Dodgers just got in because they're the Dodgers. They've been fantastic over in Japan, obviously bringing in Ohtani and Yamamoto and getting them to buy into Dodger baseball. But Sasaki has said he wants to be the guy. He wants to be the best pitcher in baseball. And maybe he would like to come to San Diego for a couple of reasons. And Joel Wolf kind of talked about this yesterday. Apparently, in the last couple of years in Japan, Sasaki has been very heavily criticized. I don't know why he'd be criticized. The guy has done a great job. If anything, the Chiba Lottie Marines have done a great job of protecting this guy. The first year that he signed, when he came out of high school, he didn't pitch. They just had him train. They tried to build up his strength. He's 23 years of age. The guy throws over 100 miles an hour, got a split finger fastball that's, as Andrew Friedman, the head guy of the Dodgers, said, it's a plus pitch, and so is his fastball. He's got 2 plus pitches right now. I mean, he could come over here and probably dominate. I mean, the guy's been amazing. But the Chiba Lottie Marines have really taken good care of him and protected his arm. And so, he comes over here, whatever team he would go to, they're going to have to kind of go slow with him. They're not going to throw him out there to throw 200 innings a year. And again, he would be under the same type of contract that Ohtani was under. And I believe Ohtani signed for a little over $2 million with the Angels. And he was under that deal for 6 years because, the first 3 years you play and, you get your money and then you go to arbitration those last 3 years. And that's when Ohtani started making money. And then after 6 years, you become a free agent. But the media apparently has beaten this guy up pretty good. And, he lost his father back in 2011. He real tight-knit with his family. And again, maybe his mom, maybe his brother, maybe they would come to the States and, hang with him. I don't know. But this is going to be very interesting. But the earliest he would sign would be when the new international signings bonus pool comes out, and that's January 15th. The latest would be the 23rd. Again, 45 days that you have to be posted, but you can sign prior to that, and we'll see what happens. But, hey, San Diego, why wouldn't you come to San Diego? If you want to stay away from the media, you got one beat writer, Kevin Acee. Okay? You got a TV media that they come out and they stick a microphone and they take whatever you say. They don't ask questions. Okay? So, I mean, this would be a great spot. If he wants to lay low, we've even heard about the Pittsburgh Pirates. Can you imagine Sasaki and Paul Skeens on the same staff? Wow. I heard the Pirates are getting close to signing Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo would be a great fit for the Pirates. Great team guy. His skills have obviously diminished. Injuries have come into play. He's got a bad back, and he's had all kinds of problems recently, but that'd be a nice sign. But if Sasaki went to Pittsburgh, well, that'd be incredible, wouldn't it? Might be good for baseball. It'd be good for baseball, I think, if he came to San Diego. It would just add fuel to the fire against the Dodgers. Dodgers would be so ticked. They would be so ticked if Sasaki came here. But then if you go to the Dodgers, they're proven to develop pitchers. Look at all the guys they bring up from their minor leagues. And I guarantee you, Friedman, he's a sharp operator, just like Preller is, and they will have all their ducks in a row. I really believe it's between the Dodgers and Padres. You might hear about the Yankees or the Mets or somebody else, the Pirates. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's a two-horse race. And I think it could go either way. I don't know if there's one team really favored here, other than if you want to go to the World Series champs or you want to go to a team that's trying to win a World Series. Do you want to do something special? I mean, if he came here and all of a sudden, man, we're in the World Series, we win the World Series, what's that do for him going forward to free agency in 6 years? Going to be very, very interesting. But they're going to play it out. And Joel Wolf, he's a sharp operator, man. I'll tell you, he's a sharp operator. He knows how to weave these stories in and out, just lay things out to give people something to think about. That will be very, very interesting. I'm enthralled by Japanese players. I'm enthralled by Japanese baseball because of the culture, the discipline, and the players they've developed. I think they do an incredible job of developing players. I really do. Okay, got to get Sasaki trade cease. Well, you know what, WK, that very well may be the case. That very well may be the case. And I'll be honest with you, they're going to have to do something because we need a catcher and we need a left fielder. Now, as far as the Padres pitching-wise, and we're going to go through that right now because we really need to focus in on this. And I'm going to talk about the Dodger rotation as well. But, yesterday I listened to AJ. AJ's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. Yeah, it really is. He talked about maybe Adrian Morejon. We need to find out who Adrian Morejon is, folks. I mean, I know he's had injuries. I know he came back from Tommy John. We need to find out if this guy can get the job done. I thought at times last year he was dominating out of the bullpen. But maybe that's who he is. But I thought when he was 16 years of age and they gave him that ton of money and that bonus, I thought they projected him to be a starting pitcher. And I know they've had to go slow with him because of the injury. But man, I think this year we got to find out if this guy can get the job done or not as a starting pitcher. I think they need to tell him, Adrian, we're going to give you every opportunity to be a starting pitcher this year. But you got to get yourself in the best shape of your life, and we're going to try to bring you along and be a starting pitcher. Now, that doesn't mean I expect him to go out there and throw 6 or 7 innings. I would like to see him go out there and throw 5 solid innings. Now, if you don't think he can do it, he can still help you in the bullpen, but I think this would be his last year in San Diego. He's approaching free agency here before too long, and I think you're going to have to make a decision on him. And I try to find out if you can make him a starting pitcher. That was your goal when you signed him as a 16-year-old. And then they talked about Brian Hoeing, who came over from Tampa. Johnny Brito, who I think he's serviceable. I don't necessarily think he's going to be your 5th man in the rotation, but I certainly think Johnny Brito can help you. And I think he'll be better this coming year than he was a year ago. The more innings he got, the better he got for me. Randy Vasquez definitely got better. Randy Vasquez helped this ball club. And then you got Matt Waldron. And I know everybody at the end of the year was down on Matt Waldron. Matt Waldron did a hell of a job. If it weren't for Matt Waldron, I don't know if the Padres would have made the playoffs. Matt Waldron pitched a lot of innings last year, and he came up with some big games. Now, I know towards the end he got banged around pretty good, and he ended up down in AAA. But they needed a fresh arm. I think he ran out of gas. People do not realize, people that have never been around the game to a high degree, you don't understand what these guys go through. It's not easy. And it's not just the physical aspect of it, it's the mental aspect. When you got guys on second base, man, you got to bear down. And it wears you down over a 6-month period. And Matt Waldron had never gone through that. I know he throws a knuckleball, but, his fastball's mediocre, low 90s. His other stuff is probably not major league quality. But when he hits his spots, got the knuckler going, spots his fastball, he can get people out. I'm not writing off Matt Waldron. I know a lot of people were, but you know what? We need him. We need him for 2025. We need all these guys. And then you got Darvish, Cease, and King. Now, let's see what happens with Cease. Cease may end up going somewhere else. It wouldn't surprise me. They're going to have to trade somebody. And there's been talk that the Mets would like Luis Arraez. Maybe he ends up going. And that frees up a little bit of money. Not going to free up a lot. I think if you trade Cease, it'll free up more. Maybe you trade both those guys. I'm going to tell you right now, if the Padres right now look at their budget and are forecasting for 2026, 2027, 2028, and they go, hey, there's no way we can sign 1, 2, or all 3. One of the guys will be here. I think they love King. And I think they'd like to keep Arraez, and I think they'd like to keep Dylan Cease, but they're not going to be able to do that. So they've got to make a decision. I think now, before going into 2025, who's going to stay, who's going to go? Who can we re-sign realistically, and who do we need to move to get some prospects in here so we can get younger? Because remember, Manny's not getting any younger. Bogaerts isn't getting any younger. I mean, Cronenworth's 30, and he's under a long-term contract. I mean, Cronenworth would be a guy that you would trade, but really, when you look at his contract now, he's really not making that much. He'll be making $12 million a year. That's not a lot in this present-day market. So I don't expect the Padres. I hope by Friday when I come in here, I hope the Padres have done something, but I don't expect it. I expect it to be, maybe around Christmas time, maybe in between Christmas and New Year's, and definitely by the middle of January. But we'll see what filters out. Hassan Kim's name's not being thrown out a whole lot right now. We'll see where that goes. Originally, we thought he might be going to the Giants, but they gave Willie Adames that big deal. We heard maybe a 1-year deal to the Dodgers for $14 million. Now it looks like Mookie Betts is going to play shortstop, which I don't quite understand. I could see him playing second base. I don't see him playing shortstop. I thought he did a good job at shortstop, except he had a little bit of a throwing issue. But with Dino Ebel, their infield coach, I'm sure they'll continue to work on that. He'll have a whole spring training to work on it. But that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But that's kind of where the Padres are at right now. They're kind of sitting there going, God, who can we go after? Who can we trade? What's the trade market right now for some of our guys? But I think we're going to have more than one trade by the Padres. I really do. Xander Bogaerts. I talked with AJ the other night. And if you recall, last year when they made this decision, I didn't like this decision. I thought Bogaerts was fine his first year here in 2023. Does he have the range of a lot of the other shortstop? Probably not. I don't think his range was awful. I thought he did a good job of catching the routine ground ball. That's what beats you. As a manager, you want guys that you can depend on making the routine play. You're not. How many times are you really going to make that play in the hole or going up the middle? I mean, you're going to make it occasionally here and there, but if you dive, you're probably never going to make it, except 1 out of 10 times, and you put yourself in jeopardy of getting hurt. Xander Bogaerts, I thought last year when they decided to move him to second base, I thought a guy that came in on an 11-year deal, you kind of devalued the player. Not that you're ever going to be able to trade him with that contract. But I thought kind of devalued him and probably put him in a bad mood. But, I think he's a real trooper. He went over there and did a hell of a job at second base, made the adjustment, worked with Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim, if anybody struggled last year, I thought Ha-Seong Kim struggled at shortstop. He did not play a great shortstop last year. And then when he went down, they moved Bogaerts back. And that's a tough one. It's a lot easier, folks. I can tell you this. It's a lot easier to go from shortstop to second than it is from second back to shortstop. It's just totally different. Very difficult position, very taxing position physically and mentally. And I thought Bogaerts played very well. And when I talked with AJ last week, we talked about Bogaerts. And I go, what are you going to do at shortstop? He goes, probably Xander. And I go, you feel good about it? Yeah. He goes, I thought he played really well. I go, well, I did too. And I didn't say, AJ, I thought you should have stayed there. But I think unless something really changed and there was some kind of big deal, a blockbuster deal where the Padres could get a young infielder, I think Bogaerts going to be the shortstop, and I have no problem with that. I don't know how you feel. Maybe you got an opinion on it. I have no problem with that. I think Bogaerts is fine. I did tell AJ this. I go, you need to tell him to get in better shape. And he kind of nodded his head. He agreed with me. I thought he got a little bit heavy last year. But that happens with age. When you get older, man, we all know it. I fight it on a daily basis. It's tough to keep that weight off. Your body just changes, even in your early 30s. So, I'm a big Bogaerts fan because I know he's a high character guy. I'm pulling for him to have a great year. He's taken a lot of criticism here, not that it wasn't unwarranted, but I would like to see him have a big year because I do think he's a quality human being. I think he's a good teammate. Just a quick note. Yesterday, they had the baseball lottery for the draft. Washington, it came up Washington will draft number 1 next summer, and that'll be July 13th, 14th, and 15th during the All-Star break. Padres will draft 25th. There's so many years the Padres drafted, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the top 8. I'm glad they're drafting number 25. That's the way I'm looking at it. Okay, some notable signings. Juan Soto, a 15-year deal, $765. What is it about Juan Soto I just don't like? What is it about this guy that I don't know if I've ever disliked watching a guy play more than a guy like Juan Soto. And a baseball lifer like myself, I should go, man, this guy's the next Mickey Mantle. He just doesn't resonate with me for some reason. And it has nothing to do with not being with the Padres. It has nothing to do with him spurning the Yankees to go to the Mets. I just think this guy is the most overrated baseball player in history. He's one-dimensional. He can hit. Yeah, he hits with power. He averages about 29 homers a year. And you know what? He may be coming into his prime, and he may be the greatest player in the history of the game. He may hit 1,000 home runs. But for some reason, this guy just bugs me. Just bugs me. He's a brutal fielder. He's an awful base runner, but the guy can hit. But what's it going to be like when he's 35 and he really gets himself in good shape? I don't know. There's something about this guy that just bugs me. I mean, there's not one player in baseball that bothers me as much as Juan Soto. I didn't like him when he was with the Padres, to be honest with you. I mean, I tolerated him with the Padres. I don't think he's a great teammate at all. And I think you're going to hear more and more stories coming out now. And I don't think it's sour grapes from the Yankees. I saw his act here in San Diego, and I didn't like his act. Being late for buses, making players wait on the bus because Juan Soto is working at the Juan Soto speed. I mean, players don't like that. That causes friction on a ball club. You know, being aloof. I mean, there were stories that when he was with the Padres during team meetings, he'd be wearing a headset. I mean, that's a joke. Are you serious? And don't ever put Juan Soto and leader in the same sentence, okay? This guy just really bugs me. You know, the other day I briefly talked about it, about the Hall of Fame. And I got to mention this today because I just kind of glossed over it the other day because we had Scott Miller on, and Scotty talked a little bit about it. But Dick Allen went in. In his days with Philadelphia, his name was Richie Allen. And Richie Allen, back in the 60s, had a bad rap. That he was a malingerer, he was a cancer. Apparently, he was anything but that. Gene Walk, who's long gone, passed away, said, no, this guy was a leader in the clubhouse. He helped the young players. And then later on, when he went and played for one of the great managers I always enjoyed watching manage, Chuck Tanner, with the White Sox, he said Dick Allen was unbelievable. He goes, he took numerous free hours of his own time to work with young ball players and help young ball players. And then my guy Dave Parker, one of my all-time favorite players, Dave Parker. I'm so happy. I know he's fighting Parkinson's, but he's going into the Hall of Fame. A big Cobra fan. I love watching him play. And then I think about watching Juan Soto. It's night and day. Dave Parker, man, anytime he came to the on-deck circle, you'd start getting excited. Kind of like Reggie. And Reggie was one of my all-time favorite players, too. Willie Stargell. I love those guys. They were fun to watch. But, man, I come back to Juan Soto. It just gagged me with a spoon, seriously. And I don't know what Stephen Cohen's trying to do there, but $765 million, that doesn't build you a championship team. It'll help you, but a lot of other things have to fall into place. But hey, more power to the Mets, more power. I hope Juan Soto has a great career, a healthy career, but I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan. 288 last year, 41 bombs, 109 RBI. That's a hell of a year. 285 career hitter. He's had a great career. He's a great player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I just don't enjoy watching him play. New York Yankees left-hander, Max Fried now. Now, here's one of my favorite guys in baseball, and I'm going to tell you why. Back in 2011, this guy was pitching at Harvard Westlake High School. And I went down the Sunday before the draft. The draft was on a Wednesday. And I went down to Petco Park. I took Wynton Bernard, the young man that I've worked with for many years. He's playing down in Mexicali right now in the Mexican Winter League. Got a brief cup of coffee a few years back with the Colorado Rockies. Wynton's been playing professional baseball since 2011. Drafted by the Padres, by the way. But I took Wynton down, and in that tryout was Carlos Correa, the great shortstop of Houston, now the Minnesota Twins, and Max Fried. And I sat, that's when the bullpens at Petco Park were down the right field line. Remember when they first put in Petco and the bullpens were down the right field line? They had all the pitchers throwing bullpens. So I went down there and I watched Max Fried. And I saw this curveball. And I was standing right, I was sitting up in the stands, but right behind the catcher. And Max Fried's throwing this curveball, and I'm going, oh my God, this guy's unbelievable. Well, that Wednesday, the Padres take him in the draft. And I'm going, oh man, this is awesome. Well, unfortunately, they ended up trading him for Justin Upton. And we got 1 year out of Upton, all-star season, and then he was gone. But Max Fried is one of my favorite guys. I've got an affinity for left-handed pitchers, good left-handed pitchers. And Max Fried got a great deal, 8 years, 218 million. Last year, 11-10 with Atlanta, 174 in the third innings, 166 strikeouts. Really not a strikeout pitcher. 3.25 ERA, a WHIP of 1.16. Now here's the deal on Max Fried. Max Fried is one of the best fielding pitchers in all of baseball, maybe the best athlete of all pitchers in baseball. Got a great pickoff move. He'll have the best pickoff move the Yankees have had since Andy Pettitte. No question about it, not even close. He's won 3 Gold Gloves. And he actually, not that they hit anymore, but he won a Silver Slugger as a hitter before the National League went to the DH. This guy's a great all-around baseball player. The problem is, each of the last 2 years, he's had some forearm tightness. And you know that's usually the precursor to Tommy John, but he's come back both times. And when he's come back very, very good. So let's hopefully he can stay healthy, but a great sign by the Yankees. A great sign. They may be going after Alonso. We've heard about Profar. We've heard maybe they're going to try to work a deal with the Houston Astros and get Kyle Tucker. We'll see what happens. Maybe something happens today. Maybe something happens tomorrow, or maybe something happens down in the next couple of weeks. And then yesterday, Bruce Bochy gets some help. Nathan Eovaldi going to go back to the Rangers. Eovaldi's an interesting cat, man. He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries, and he just seems to come back better and better and better. Last year, 12-8, a 3.80 ERA, 166 punch-outs, and 172 thirds innings, 111 WHIP. Got a 3-year, $75 million deal, 35 years of age. That's a good re-sign. Texas, I can tell you this. I don't know how much longer Boch is going to manage. I thought when he came back, he'd manage at least 3 years. He's got 2 years in the books. He's got 1 World Series, disappointing 2024, but they're going to restock down there. They got some good young players, and I think they're going to beef up that bullpen a little bit. I expect Texas to make another run for it out of the American League. Now, I want to get into the Dodgers here a little bit. And, we're going to talk during the season, folks. I just want you to know this. We're going to talk a ton about the Padres. That's our kingpin, or the Padres. But we're going to talk about the Dodgers. We're going to talk about the Angels, because I got Angel fans that tune into my program. I got Dodger fans, and I obviously have a high degree of Padres. We're going to talk about everything. We're just not going to be talking about the Padres morning, noon, and night. We're going to talk about everything, because I have friends in baseball. I get a lot of good information, and I think I should share that information. And I think there are a lot of baseball fans out there that love this information. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the Dodger rotation, then we'll try to get to a few more questions. So if you have questions, go ahead, type them in, and we'll get to some of them. Okay, the Dodgers, what they've done so far, they've been incredible. They signed Blake Snell, 5 years, 182. They signed Michael Conforto, which I thought was kind of a strange sign. 1 year, $17 million. Guy hit 235. He hit 20 diggers last year, 66 RBIs, but he wore out right-handed pitching. And we know how the Dodgers, they like to play that righty-lefty matchup. So Conforto probably going to play mostly against right-handed pitching. But now, what are they going to do with Teoscar Hernandez? I think Dodger fans want Teoscar Hernandez back. He wants to come back. Dodgers got to figure out how to make that happen. But anyways, they got Snell. They got Conforto on the 1 year deal at $17 million. They re-signed Tommy Edman, who was going into the final year of his deal. They give him a 5 year deal, $74 million. And he's like the Swiss Army knife. He can play short. He can play second. You want to Gold Glove at short, or excuse me, at second. We saw that he can play center field. So, I mean, Tommy Edman can play all over the field. So basically, they've got a better version of Chris Taylor. I don't know what they're going to do with Chris Taylor. I think they'd like to move him. He got another year on that big contract, but I don't know who's going to take him. I mean, what he hit, he finally got up to about 150, didn't he? And he was under 100 there for a long period of time. And then they re-signed a key guy, Blake Treinen. They give Treinen a 2 year deal at $22 million. But then you take a look at the Dodgers' projected rotation. This is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Tyler Glasnow, he's an injury concern. He didn't make it to the end of the year, missed all the playoffs. He's an injury concern. But Tyler Glasnow, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, again, you got to watch his innings. He spent considerable time on the IL last year. Tony Gonsolin coming back from Tommy John. Shohei Ohtani. I got another point on Ohtani here in a minute, but Ohtani, they're going to have to be very careful with him. He's coming back now from a left shoulder surgery. By the way, did you see Freddie Freeman had ankle surgery? Freddie Freeman, what a stud. He played and he ended up needing ankle surgery. And look at what he did in the World Series, for crying out loud. But Ohtani coming back, Bobby Miller, they're not going to give up on him. Of course, Blake Snell. And then the other guys they got, Landon Knack, Dustin May, who may end up in the bullpen. He's coming off of 2 Tommy Johns, plus that esophagus surgery that was very, very serious. They're hoping to get Emmett Sheehan back at the All-Star break, and they're hoping to get Kershaw back once he gets his contract squared away in midseason. But here's the deal. I didn't know this until last night when I heard Andrew Friedman speak. You're allowed to carry a maximum of 13 pitchers on your roster. Okay, a 26-man roster, you're allowed to carry 13. The Dodgers will be able to carry 13 plus Ohtani. Ohtani's not going to count as a pitcher because he's a two-way player. So they got 13 pitchers plus Ohtani. So every inning Ohtani can give that team will be one less that bullpen is going to have to pitch. Boy, Dodgers, they figure out every which way, don't they? There's something else up there. They push the envelope. I've had more people, by the way, in the last couple of weeks come up to me and go, man, this deferred money thing is just, that's a bunch of crap. Well, maybe it is, but there's no rules against it. They can do whatever they want. And by the way, did you see Soto took no deferred money? He wants no deferred money. He wants his money. Plus, he got a $75 million bonus, signing bonus. Okay, got to get into Nolan Arenado. This is one of my favorite guys. I think this guy's a hell of a player. He had a bad year last year with the Cardinals. Nolan Arenado said yesterday he will waive his no-trade clause for 6 teams. And one of those teams is our San Diego Padres. Another is the Dodgers, and another is the Angels. The other 3 teams are the Phillies, the Mets, and Boston. Now, let me explain something on Arenado. Arenado also said, depending on where he went, he would be open to a move to first base. Well, you look at Dodgers, they got Max Muncy. The Padres got Manny Machado. Right now, Alec Boehm, the third baseman there with the Phillies, it looks like they may move him. The Mets have that Vientos, who's a hell of a player. Boston has Devers, who probably not a great defender. He's gotten better, but he's a big bopper. He could move to first base. And then the Angels, they have Anthony Rendon, one of the worst signings in the history of baseball. Doesn't even seem like that guy cares anymore. That's just amazing. But let me give you a little more on Arenado. And then, you might want to dive in with a question or two for me. Okay, he'll turn 34 on April 16th. Last year, a down year for him, probably his worst year in the big leagues. He had 272, which isn't bad, 16 bombs, 71 RBIs. Guy plays all the time. Career average of 285, has 341 homers, 1,132 RBIs. He's got a Hall of Fame career. 10-time Gold Glove winner, 2-time RBI leader in the National League, 3-time National League home run leader, 8-time All-Star. Guy's had a hell of a career. Newport Beach guy, went to El Toro High School. Now, here's the money. I didn't know this until last night. I started doing some work on him. Okay, this coming year, Arenado will get $32 million, but $6 million is deferred. He's got money deferred. So he got $6 million deferred. So that would take it down to 26. In 2026, it's a $27 million salary with $6 million deferred. And then in 2027, there's an option for $15 million unless he signs an extension. Now, my question to you, there's always been that big debate here in San Diego. Who's better, Arenado or Machado? Well, if you go on awards, Arenado's been better. You go on production, it's about even. Okay? Arenado started out, you can say, well, he played in Colorado all those years, and now he's in St. Louis, and he's, kind of flattened out a little bit. Well, the ball club flattened out too. And Goldschmidt had a bad year, so he didn't really have guys hitting in front of him and behind him to, protect him a little bit. I don't think the Padres could pull the trigger on this deal. I do think Arenado wants to play in Southern California. He put the Angels on the list, but I don't think he wants to play for the Angels, even though he trains in Orange County during the offseason. I think he'd like to go to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers, as I mentioned, they'd like to move Chris Taylor, maybe even Max Muncy. Max Muncy, to me, he's gotten better at third, but he's a liability down there. It'd be interesting. Arenado's going to be traded. John Mozeliak, who's the outgoing baseball operations guy there in St. Louis, said, he's going. So where he's going, I don't know. He could end up with the Yankees. Maybe he'll say he'll go to the Yankees. And they'll just sweeten the pot a little bit for him. A lot of times when they put teams on here and then they want to trade him somewhere else, player go, well, I'll do it, but they got to give me a little more money, or we got to renegotiate the deal. So I don't know if you want Arenado here or not playing first base. If you traded to Rise, maybe it'd open up a little money to bring in Arenado. You could get the Cardinals maybe to take a little bit of that and pay for Arenado to come here. I don't know if you want him or not, but he's going somewhere. And I'd rather him come here than go to the Dodgers personally, because he'd look awful good in that Dodger lineup. We'll get into the Angels another day. I'm not sure what the Angels are doing. They're signed a lot of guys, but I don't know how many difference makers they've signed, and they've got a long ways to go. Okay, the last thing I wanted to just mention, and we'll talk maybe a little bit more about it on Friday, is the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy is going to be doled out on Saturday night in New York. And there's 4 finalists right now. You got quarterback Dillon Gabriel at Oregon, who's had a great year. I mean, maybe he'll end up winning it. Cornerback wide receiver Travis Hunter of Colorado, great two-way player. Running back Ashton Jeanty at Boise State, who's had an incredible record-setting year. And the quarterback Cam Ward at Miami. I think all of them are very worthy. I think Dillon Gabriel, his team's number 1 in the country, number 1 in the playoffs, and they've had an incredible year. They're 13-0, only D1 school that's undefeated. But I think when I look at it as a two-horse race, I think it's Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty. And I think as great as Jeanty's been, I think Travis Hunter, who's got 92 catches, over 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns on offense, and on defense, he's probably the best defensive back in America. I think Dion, cornerback wide receiver, Travis Hunter is going to win it. That's my call. You can maybe write in who you think is going to win on our YouTube page. So did I give you enough to think about today, folks? Did I give you enough to think about? Talking about the Padres, the payroll, what they need to do, what their rotation could be. Hopefully I did. Okay, Divine Sports Gospel. Really hoping Bogey pulls through and has a good year. Divine Sports Gospel, I totally agree. I've been pulling for him each of the last 2 years. Last year was unfortunate. He dove for that ball at second base and ended up, hurting his shoulder. And, he missed a lot of time. But hopefully he's able to stay healthy. I want to see him get in better shape. I think he could drop 10, 15 pounds. It's not easy, but I think he'd feel better. I think he'd move better. And I think it'd be a lot easier for him to play shortstop if he dropped a little bit of weight. Sam Hill, absolutely terrible trading away Fried back then. I'm not going to disagree with that. That broke my heart. That broke my heart. And what made it even worse is we only had Justin Upton for 1 year, and it was that 2015 season when they fired Buddy Black and hired Pat Murphy, and they were 32-33, and then things really unraveled after Buddy got fired. But I totally agree. Matthew, do you see the Padres landing Garrett Crochet? I think they're in the mix. And the thing about Crochet, here's the deal on him, just so you understand his contract. He's got 2 more years. Padres could have him for 2025 and 2026 before he becomes a free agent. And the other thing with him, he would be another guy that I think you'd probably really have to watch his innings this year. They extended him last year, but there were times where they hooked him after 4 innings just to kind of protect him. They'd probably have to do the same thing to a degree here in San Diego. Maybe extend him a little bit more than the White Sox did, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think he's going to be moved. I just don't know where he's going to go right now. Maybe a 3-way trade for Cease. Well, who would the third team be, Matthew? We got the White Sox, we got the Padres. Who'd be that third team? I'd like to know. Alfredo, hi, Coach. Alfredo from Ensenada, Mexico. I would feel bad if they trade Cease. What's your opinion? Thank you. Great show. Alfredo, thank you. And tell all the folks down there I said hello. I know I've got a good listening audience down there in Mexico. I think they're going to have to make a decision, like I said earlier. They're going to have to make a decision whether or not to keep King or Cease. Whoever they think they can re-sign, that's who they keep. And I just think Cease is going to be, because he's done it for a longer period of time than King. I think he's going to be the more expensive guy. I could definitely see him traded before opening day. And if the Padres were ever to, fall out of the playoff race, I think with the wild card, Padres are going to be in it again. I don't think they're going to win the division. Well, you never know what could happen. Injuries play a part in it. But if they were to drop out of it, the trading deadline, they'd definitely trade him because they're not going to be able to re-sign him. Mark, I wouldn't let Arise go anywhere. Contrary to the stat gurus, that guy is valuable for our team. I'm not going to argue that. I think he's a hell of a hitter. He ain't Tony Gwynn, but he's a hell of a hitter. I think one thing he could maybe, and I hate to say this because I don't like to take aggressiveness away from my hitters, but he could maybe try to work the count a little bit better and try maybe for a little bit higher on base percentage than he had a year ago. That would be my guess on that. All right, folks. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. Great show today. Great participation. Again, leave your comments at the bottom of the page. This is also on Facebook, and we put our clips up on YouTube. Again, if you have any comments, please write them in. I like to go through them all and try to answer as many questions as I can. Again, we'll be back on more Monday or Friday morning. Got to get the days straight. These days go crazy. Friday morning at 9:30. And again, you can follow me on Facebook at John Quintera and on YouTube at Coach Quintera 44. Have a great Wednesday, and maybe by Friday, just maybe, we'll have some new Padres to talk about. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.